Seeing none, we'll move down to bylaws on page 7. Starting with page 7, bylaw 2014-4, borrowing bylaw for the Olds Institute, and consideration for second and third reading. Mr. McGuinness? And maybe we will try by voice. If you can't hear, I'll get up and run and pass the mic over.
So, Your Worship, both the next two items on the agenda have been through the requisite advertising requirements. Mr. Lucas was on the advertising as the point person for questions or clarifications, and we have not received any requests for any further information. Other than that, most of the information that's needed for council to make a decision on these two bylaws are within the background information and request for decision.
Thank you, Councillor Harper.
Hi, thank you, Your Worship. I believe that this bylaw has received a lot of press over and above the legal requirements for advertising, and therefore I'm more than prepared to pass a motion, to present a motion for second reading of this particular bylaw. So I
Please move forward.
2014-04 being a borrowing bylaw for the completion of the fibre to the premise network be given second reading.
Thank you. I would ask council at this time if you have any questions. Seeing none, then we will vote on second reading of bylaw 2014, borrowing bylaw. Those in favor? That is carried. And I would ask then for third and final reading, Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I discussed this with the previous councillor, and he says, you know, you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar, so I agreed with him wholeheartedly on that. And the business plan that's come forward, I think we're pretty confident that this is going to go quite well for the whole citizens. So in that, I'll move the bylaw 2014-04, being a borrowing bylaw for the completion of fibre to the premise network, be given third reading.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Final questions? Seeing none, then we will vote on third and final reading. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Page 11 of your agenda, item 7B, bylaw 2014-5. This is the loan bylaw for Olds Institute with regards to second and third reading once again. Mr. McGuinness?
Thank you, Your Worship. Same as the previous bylaw, the requisite advertising requirements have been made. There have been no inquiries of administration. With this particular bylaw, we also have added for council's consideration an application to municipal affairs to increase both our debt limit and our debt servicing limit. Just recognizing the fact that the principal interest payments on both the $6 million of the original loan and this $8 million loan will actually come from third-party sources. So I think it's reasonable for us not to put in jeopardy our ability to borrow for our own purposes and ask for an extension to both our debt servicing limit.
Yes, before we move to second reading, then Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Mr. McGuinness, I just want to clarify and be sure that this is not going to interfere with any of our original debt limit, unused debt limit that we have now, in case we have a major infrastructure problem or anything like that.
No, so we still have room to borrow. We also do have about $7 million in cash reserves. So I think that on two levels, we've certainly got the ability to borrow for any catastrophic events. We do have some reserves in place. And I do think that municipal affairs would look favorably upon increasing our debt limit if we did have an emergency that we needed to deal with.
I could respond to that. Councillor Overwater and myself were in Edmonton this past week at the AMD&C, the Alberta Counties Convention. I had the opportunity during some networking time to speak with the Municipal Affairs Honorable Ken Hughes, and we did have quite a conversation in regards to ONET and Olds Fibre, and he was all smiles, and I ended the conversation saying, and it may be likely you will hear from the town of Olds just to raise our debt limit, and there was no questions. And he's very proud of Olds for where we are today. So we will be reporting later on in our council meeting on some of the things that we attended, but I did have that conversation and there was no questions. I have not received any questions myself as a mayor. As it's indicated, there's been no questions, comments, or concerns expressed by the public with this regard. I do understand there has been some coffee shop talk, but the councillors around this table have indicated what the process was and the procedures, and they chose not to move forward on those. They were just curious and looking for questions. So at this time, I would like to note to council around the table, I will be asking for 4 separate motions, and I would ask for motion to begin with second reading. Councillor Durier.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw 2014-05, being a lone bylaw for the completion of the fibre to the premise network, be given second reading.
Questions? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Barishaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw 2014-05, being a lone bylaw for the completion of the fibre to the premise network, be given third reading.
I just had a picture in my mind of speaking to Honorable Ken Hughes with regards to fibre and the people in the room at that time. And I just will share this little story because some of you will be leaving before the end of the meeting. And one of the gentlemen that Councillor Overwater and I spoke to asked who our provider was. And we continued to tell them it was Olds Fibre, and they said, no, you don't understand what I'm asking you. Who's your provider? Is it Bell or is it Shaw? And I said, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. It's Olds Fibre. And hence then I did bring the card back and gave it to Mitch, and he has contacted him. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud of this community, and I'm proud of every one of you sitting here today for the work and the dedicated hours and time that you've put in to prove that it is Olds Fibre in this community. So thank you. All right, third and final reading is on the floor. Further questions? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Ladies and gentlemen, that's carried. That's carried. And I thank you for that. Now, I would like to ask for a motion, please, then, to direct administration for the application. Councillor Walsh.
No, I move that council will direct administration to make application to Alberta Municipal Affairs to increase the town of Olds' debt limit by $14 million in order to facilitate the $6 million and $8 million loans to the Olds Institute for Community and Regional Development. The increased limit should decline annually in accordance with the repayment schedules.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Are there questions from council at this time? Administration, do you have questions? We have a motion on the floor. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Once again, that's carried. And our last and final resolution with regards to increase the debt servicing. Who would like to make that? Who has not made a motion yet? Me. Councillor Harper has not. Councillor Overwater, would you be happy to make that motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the council direct administration to make application to Alberta Municipal Affairs to increase the town of Olds' debt servicing limit by $14 million in order to facilitate the $6 million and the $8 million loans to the Olds Institute for Community and Regional Development. The increased limit should decline annually in accordance with repayment schedules.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Harper.
Yes, Your Worship. The second motion in reference to this correct me if I'm wrong, but it works exactly the same.
So there's a debt limit and
Okay,
a
debt servicing, okay.
Debt limit versus debt servicing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Hearing none then, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Ladies and gentlemen, our business tonight and this evening for our bylaws is now closed. I will only say that with council around this table tonight, the trust level and the opportunity that we will still continue to move forward and still keep this priority and never forget where we started is still out with the trust of the citizens of this community, because they have not approached council and they do trust that we will move forward in a proactive way, and we will do that. We will all work hard together and keep that line of communication open, and if there's any troubles, they're going to be communicated. I'm sure they will be. So I think we owe everybody a round of applause. I certainly would like to ask any of the gallery members at this time, being that you took time out of your schedules to be here with us before we move on with our business, if there's anything you would like to add or share.
Well, Your Worship, what can we say besides thank you, and thank you for the trust, and we're going to do everything we can to make this a reality and keep holes on the map. So stay tuned.
Did you want to share the email that you sent out to us today with regards to the ISP, and we're now a 5-star community?
You know, it just keeps happening, right? I mean, we have the fastest internet in Canada, and now it's being measured. And so other companies now that measure internet speeds and stuff have now picked that up. And so one clarification on that, you'll notice the first question I got was, well, why doesn't it measure 1,000? And so the problem is that the equipment that's measuring can't measure it. So it's measuring 186 to 3.04 for the other guy. And so we are now #1 in Canada, being measured against every ISP in the country. And so again, we're going to be on the charts for what's going on in Olds, right? So it's, yeah, it's good news. Good news, yeah.
I like the 5 stars.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we are. We're a gold star community, so thank you once again. Do we need to give the media a little recess to speak to these people before they leave, or?
I'm just going to talk to you guys tonight.
Okay.
Talk to them last time.
All right, thank you very much. Again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Unfinished business.
Olds Community TV, your go-to channel for news and information in Olds, Alberta.